as we finish up the last few lectures of the grammar videos, we're beginning now to transition into the rhetorical skills questions. And these following 3 lectures about, in this video, idioms, then redundancy, and then wordiness, certainly have something to do with grammar and standard usage, but we're beginning to transition as well into style, into how effective a piece of writing is, how clear it is. And that's grammar, but it's also rhetorical skills. So we're going to be moving less into grammar now and more into that kind of thing. So let's look at some examples so you can see what kind of errors we're looking at here. This is about diction errors. So we'll define diction in a second. I may be an easygoing parent, but I would never consent that kind of behavior in the arcade. So consent that kind of behavior doesn't sound quite right. In this situation, you don't consent that kind of behavior. If anything, you would consent to that kind of behavior. That would be a proper idiom, and we'll talk about idioms in the next video. This one is diction. We've got idiom, redundancy, and wordiness. In any event, consent to would work, or you can change from consent to condone, which perhaps would be a stronger word here, but I would never condone that kind of behavior in the arcade. And this is diction. Diction is about word choice. What words are you using? How are you using them? Are they effective? Are they clear? Is there a better option? So here we would probably swap it out to condone. Now, this might have been a hard question to get on your own without any multiple choice. In the real test, you're going to have multiple choices. So presumably you would see the word condone and realize that it would fit better and then go from there. They're not going to get their share of shrimp without a fight. Here we're testing the difference between the 3 theirs. Their, THY''re, is a contraction for they are, and that is correctly used in this case, right? They are not going to get their shrimp, so that works. This there, however, is the there of place. We need the there of possession, THEIR, so we would swap that out. This one also tests this. If they think we'll let them steal our share of shrimp, they're going to regret it. Here, there is the there of place. We need their ''re, they are. And remember, just like with its, IT''s, just sub in they are in for there. If it sounds good, keep the THEY''re. If it doesn't, then you either have to do ERE or EIR. It's obvious from your YouTube comment that you're a total idiot. So here we're testing the difference between your and your, one with the ''re, one without the apostrophe. So again, your is a contraction for you are. So here that doesn't really make sense. It's obvious from you are YouTube comment. No, this should be you. Whereas this should be your, because it's obvious from your YouTube comment that you are a total idiot. Notice as well that this actually also should be IT''s, right? It is obvious. That's consistent, so we do IT''s. Last one here. The Justice League attacked Doomsday with all their combined might to no effect. This one's a little bit tricky. Effect here is the wrong effect. We need the effect with an E. Why? Well, basically, effect with an E is the noun version, right? To have an effect, for example, right? Whereas affect is the verb version. So effect with an E is the noun, which is what we want here. To no effect, E. Affect or affect is the verb version. So if you wanted to change the sentence to use affect properly with an A, you'd say the Justice League could not affect Doomsday with all their combined might. As a side note, I won't go into this. There's actually, unfortunately, a form of affect with an E that's a verb, and there's a form of affect with an A that's a noun. We won't get into that unless it really comes up. Just know that affect is the verb and effect is the noun. But it's unfortunately a little bit more complicated than that. Ribsy ate 3 orders of fries in addition to our leftovers, and he is probably 2 feet shorter than us. So here we're using the wrong then. When we're making a comparison, we use THAN, right? He is 2 feet shorter than us, with an A to show comparison. Then shows time, shows sequence of events. This one, again, kind of like the first one, I think was probably really hard to do without choices, but Dr. Mendoza prepared the sample for the essay that will calculate the % gold in the mine. So really what we're looking for here is the word assay, Again, this one's probably harder than anything you'll see on the test. The point is, for this one, the word essay sounds and looks like assay, and they're actually two different words. Assay here means like sampling something, which is exactly what we want to do, right? Get a kind of a quantitative analysis or qualitative analysis of substance, which is what we're doing here. So it sounds right, but the spelling is off and the definition is different. Whereas in the one up here, I wouldn't say consent and condone really sound like each other. It's just knowing which word works. So these are a bit trickier because they sound good, but again, you got to go with the one that makes sense in context. And like I said, this one is, I think, harder than anything you'll see on the test, but nonetheless. So diction, in short, is using the right word for the right job. And you want to be careful about words that sound the same, as we saw in assay, as we saw in then, as we saw in affect and effect, as we saw in your, there, right? Just because they sound right doesn't necessarily mean they are the right word. One thing I forgot to mention, who and whom. Don't forget who and whom, which we discussed the rule for that earlier, would also be something that would be considered, I guess, a diction error. Let's look at some examples. From number 1. We'll go down here. Given these solutions, as well as the many health benefits of the food, the advantages of Greek yogurt outdo the potential drawbacks of its production. So here, outdo on one level may seem like it's okay, but really it's not the proper usage of that word in that context. We want a different word. This is like that consent condone question earlier. So we can get rid of A. The advantages of Greek yogurt defeat the drawbacks? Nah, they're not really having a battle or anything. It's too direct and too active. The advantages outperform the drawbacks, still not quite precise, not quite what we want, but outweigh looks good. The advantages of Greek yogurt outweigh the potential drawbacks, right? Because you're balancing out, you're comparing and contrasting the advantages and disadvantages. And it turns out the advantages outweigh, they're more substantial than the drawbacks. So that's why we would go with D. This is based purely on what is standard usage. If we write sentences like this, do we use the word outdo? No, we don't. That's just the way it is. Do we use the word outweigh? Yes, that's just the way it is. Unfortunately, there's no deeper rule. Number 10. Also, because it is more concentrated, Greek yogurt contains slightly more protein per serving, thereby helping people stay satiated for longer periods of time. So a little bit of definition here, a little bit of vocab, oddly enough, in the writing. Satiated means satisfied, often having to do with food and hunger. So this makes sense. If it contains more protein, it helps people stay satiated. They feel fuller for longer periods of time. So we're happy with A. Fulfilled is okay, but fulfilled captures more an emotional sense, right? To be fulfilled emotionally, feelings, rather than in terms of hunger and how full you feel. So for that reason, B is, it's in the right track, but not quite right. Complacent means to, again, it's more about kind of feeling satisfied with your situation, not really, again, having to do with hunger. And people don't stay sufficient. That doesn't really make any sense. Maybe they feel like their food has been sufficient, but people don't stay sufficient. So the only one that makes sense in context, both on meaning and on standard usage, is choice A.